Hi, it's Kevin Koym, founder of TechCrunch. Hey, today we're going to talk about investors. In our previous talk, I actually talked a little bit about customer money first. The whole idea was my bias as an entrepreneur, and especially since I've always worked with early stage technology, is to figure out the customer first. But I get a lot of individuals who come to me talking about, well, should I talk to my friends that are in PE, private equity, or should I talk to VCs or angel investors, or what are your biases on that? And so what I wanted to do today is actually talk about this a little bit. Now, you're always going to hear from me because of my bias, and this is historical. It doesn't mean I don't like investors, but I always think of customer dollars first. Because if you can actually figure out how to solve getting a customer to pay you for your products, if you can figure that out, then all the other guys are going to come running after you. So, but we'll actually talk through customer dollars, friends and family, like when you go to the people you know directly, angel investment, venture capital, and private equity. So we have this series of investment milestones. You can actually just look at this all the way through. It actually says Bootstrap and F&F, and that stands for friends and family and Bootstrap. What is Bootstrap? This means that you're pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. That is, imagine you're wearing boots, especially here in Texas, and you're pulling yourself up to actually fund the company out of what you're making from customers. I've always had a bias towards that, mainly because of the technologies I've brought to market. I've brought 6 disruptive technologies to market. And so a lot of times, if you can't figure out the customer, the technology is meaningless, and it doesn't make sense to even talk to investors. But let's go through that. Customer money, actually, you should use all the way through. Obviously, you're in business, and sometimes this bias that happens because of the media, I think, about always going after investors first. Yeah, there is a time for doing that, but you should always remember that your customer should be with you all the way through. You need to figure out who your customer is. If you don't figure out who your customer is, but you figure out who your investor might be the first time, eventually you're going to have a problem. Customer money should be touched all the way through. It's just a matter of having the right conversation with the right customer. If you have questions about that, see our previous video about how we talked about the technology adoption lifecycle. Bootstrapping, this is at the very early stages especially. Now, I actually think that the companies that stay capital efficient, that is, they are very cash efficient, I do have a bias towards it as well. So use bootstrapping techniques all the way through to not spend too much money on office furniture. It just doesn't make sense to do that. But you should use it all the time. The limitation of bootstrapping, as well as getting investments from your friends and family, is a lot of times as a bootstrapper, it's really difficult to figure out how you're going to grow. You can't grow that fast because you have to be very conservative. With friends and family money, the difficulty is you have people involved in your deal that really believe in you, but you're also putting relationships at risk. Personal relationships at risk. The personal relationship, what's got you the money, but it's also, it mixes this business and personal relationship that unless you've actually set their expectations right, that can be a big liability. Angel investment, it makes sense to go from pre-seed to seed stage, maybe even all the way up to Series A. What is pre-seed? Pre-seed is before you really have things going, you kind of figure out how, maybe it's $20,000. Sometimes the seed accelerators are places like Techstars. You might even think of them pre-seed and the seed stage type of areas. But the idea here is, in working with angel investors, it's typically high net worth individuals who actually have specific areas that they know a lot about, that you might not want their money just from the standpoint of having their cash, but having their insight. And in fact, some of the bad stories I could tell you that have happened around the tech ranches. One of our startups actually got this, $300,000 worth of funding, but then because the angel investor didn't have any of the background in their area, that actually was a problem. So money is not money. Sometimes with angels, if you find the right angel, you can actually have a way of really pole vaulting your company to a whole different level, because the person's not only bringing their cash, but they're also bringing their insight. And you should have a strong bias towards the individuals that have insight, not just cash. Venture capital is for later stages. Sometimes you'll have a VC that actually gets involved even at their seed stage, especially if your technology is fairly advanced. They might actually think about getting involved at seed, but more than likely they're not going to be involved until Series A and Series B. And you have to remember that a lot of times the average VC fund can only make 10 investments, out of their portfolio because they need money to follow up. Now, in a future version of our videos, we'll actually talk about, how to look for the VC firm that fits where you're at. We won't do that today, but just know that VCs are typically much more sophisticated in their approach. They have to come up with a way of returning their money typically 10 times what they invest. And you should know that that's a strength as well as a weakness. It's a strength in that they're going to be committed to seeing that you really go for the moon. It's a weakness that if you're not headed there, they actually will consider blowing your company up, or that's the typical stereotype at least. And then private equity, every once in a while I get asked questions about this. Now, this is actually after the startup has really gotten rolling. Like one of our startups at the Tech Ranch has more than 300 employees. And, once you get to a certain stage and you really want to grow to even the next level, you need a lot more cash. And in this case, that company took on private equity money. Private equity money means that they're, investors that are not looking to take a lot of risk. It's kind of already a done deal, kind of figured out. And instead of going to like a bank, you actually can get PE money. That's much later stage. By the time you have these type of problems and looking for PE money for your venture, that's great. That means you've pretty much made it. Now you're just going from, this part of the stratosphere to this part. Great problem to have. But you don't want to be talking to these guys early, because if your company doesn't fit the spreadsheet and the equations they have, they're not even going to talk to you, and you're just wasting you and their time. So with that, we'll finish up this short video. Hopefully this is helpful. Let us know. We decided to talk about investors today because of your request. Let us know, what are the other topics that you have, especially kind of in the, you're changing the world and you got a technology that's way out there. Let us know what you'd like. With that, we'll follow up with you soon. Thank you very much. See you soon.